Hey guys, Zazza here and welcome to the channel. Before I get into this video, I want you to take a look at this clip and in the comments below state your thoughts on what you think happens next. Before we get into the video, I'd like to say a personal thank you to anyone who leaves a like, comments on the video and subscribes to the channel. If you're investing your time into this channel, I want to show my appreciation towards you, so a big thanks from me. And I hope to engage with you all as much as possible on my newly formed sim racing journey here and via the Discord, which you can find a link to in the description below. So you've all seen the clip. Some of you may have written in the comments section below, and some of you have your thoughts in your head. Now I'd like you to understand what my thoughts were around making this video. It was late on Sunday and this was the last day of the daily races before we got a change to some new combinations. My intention was to record this video and whatever the outcome to this race, I would make a video out of it. As you can see, the combination that I decided to concentrate on in this week's daily races was Suzuka Daily Race C in the Mazda touring car. As I didn't know any of the other two tracks, this meant I would only have to learn the car's capabilities rather than the combination of both car and track. I have to say I had a real down then back up affair with this combination. We started the week on a high off the back of last week's daily races with a driver rating of 23,000 and we were honing in on 30k and becoming an A-rated driver. But as soon as I got into this car, I felt the only things that were missing was some snow, reindeers and me dressing up as Santa, because this thing felt like a sleigh. It was so sketchy on track that by the end of the week I'd become not a master of driving the car, but a master of catching the back end stepping out, and to be honest, this was probably the lesson that I would most take away. But everyone was riding the same sleigh, so I couldn't complain, plus the blue skies of Suzuka actually tricked my mind into thinking it was a warm summer's day. This didn't help my results though, where we met some of the most dirtiest drivers Gran Turismo Sport has to offer, making me think that lobbies of BS rated drivers actually meant bull. I'm sure you can fill in the blank. In 2 days, our driver rating slumped from 23,000 all the way back to 7,000. So I consciously had to think, just stay out of trouble, keep out of everyone's way and bring the car home. This tactic worked and we managed to get our driver rating back up to 21,000 before we started this race. As we sit on the start, I'm doing my final pre-start checks. I have all the buttons mapped out properly now, unlike last week where I only knew where reverse and the rear view mirror button was. And to be honest with you, it's not the best of starts, but it's okay because the guy in 6th has had an equally bad start. And if I'm honest, at the moment I love the way that these starts pan out. The cars in front pull away, the car next to us and behind us are making no ground, which gives us a beautiful area of track in front of us to coast into. Unfortunately for me, I didn't take enough speed through turn 1 and we dropped down to 6th. I can take solace that the guy who went around the outside is the highest ranked person in the race. So now it's about warming up these 4 ice cubes we call tyres before looking to go onto the attack. Unfortunately, going into the hairpin, the Brit behind doesn't get his car slowed down quick enough and punts me deep into the hairpin. Immediately as doing so, I thought to myself, this is going to be another one of those disaster races. But we're not facing the opposite direction, looking at the whites of people's eyes driving towards us, so suck it up, head down and carry on. To be fair, the Brit put his hazards on to apologise, and in my book he made a mistake. Unfortunately for him, the game has given him a 2-second penalty, so just as long as I can keep in his slipstream and not let 8 through, the position will be mine again on the up and coming straight. Out of Spoon we get a better exit than the car behind and is all looking good for us to slingshot back into 6th, and if we have this pace, chase down the cars in front. But stupidly I thought I had enough time to maximise the slipstream on the Brit in front, and whilst he was ghosted I didn't deviate from picking up the toe. At the last second the game decides to unghost the Brit whilst I'm still inside him, and then re-ghosts him so the Frenchman can carry all the speed into 130R. Luckily for me, the Frenchman decided to bump me and we get away with it. Now if you didn't watch last week's video on handling pressure, I'll leave a link to it in the description below and at the end of this video. I touched briefly on the subject of push to pass, so make sure you take a look as we're going to see another example of it in this race, namely the Frenchman behind and into turn 1. Going into the corner, I'm braking within my limit and the Frenchman is almost 5/10 back. As I hit the first apex, he's 4.5 tenths back. And as I hit the outside of the apex and cut in to take the racing line, unfortunately the Frenchman has miraculously made up 4.5 tenths and taps the inside quarter of the car. And inevitably what happens after that is the lead car slows down and the inside car passes. Now I can employ this method all day long, even to the point where I can say, you turned into me, mate, I was there. So I'm kind of asking you guys, what do you think? Is this a accepted method of overtaking? Because if it is, I'll start to adapt it into my driving style. So on the approach to 130R, I decided to put it up the inside as the cars behind are just too close for me to just lift and coast round on my own. They'll catch me up and overtake me into the bus stop chicane. So I'd rather compromise both our corner entry and speed so that we cover both the inside and outside of the chicane. The thought worked well, and I have no idea why the Frenchman got a penalty, but he's got 2 seconds and I'm not complaining. It remains the same to the penalty zone, and now I'm released into clear air. I can see the cars in front in the distance, and I set about taking my lines and braking points with no distractions in front of me. We start with our fastest first sector, personal best second sector, and at the same point we can see fourth has a penalty. Personal best third sector, and we cross the line to finish with our fastest lap. Continuing on lap 4, I've got the bit between my teeth and I'm gunning for fourth with a personal best first sector, slightly down in sector 2, but I'm feeling good. As we come out of the hairpin and take the approach to Spoon, the soul is taken from the driver in the car. In racing, we deal with all sorts of problems. Punctures, suspension failures, running out of fuel, crashing. In sim racing, it's no different. I've seen internet disconnections, TVs turning off, yeah, Rory, I'm talking about you, and screen tearing. Once you start the race, anything can happen.
What the fuck? Babe, is that you? AirPay passcode.
Sorry, I don't TV, I didn't know.
Now on this occasion, my wife decides for the very first time in her life that she would like to connect her phone to the TV downstairs so she could listen to something through it. Unfortunately, instead of connected to the Samsung, yes darling, it's a Samsung downstairs, she connects to the LG in the loft, and my screen instantly goes black saying AirPlay passcode 2934. By the time I could sort it out, I just see the timer hit 0 and we were disqualified. So a big F for me, big F in the comments. As much as I was disappointed and a few choice words may have come out of my mouth, I quickly laughed and thought, do you know what, these things happen. So this video pretty much sums up my week. That's it from me guys, a DNF for my second video, and I'd just like to say thank you for anyone who's still watching this far into the video. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you next week for another video.